Hello, and welcome to Third Eye Thinkers. I'm your host, Michelle Welch.
Hi, I'm your host, Megan Benanti. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Good. And yourself?
Good. I feel like you've been gone forever.
I know. It's been a while. So, yeah, we had Thanksgiving last week, so a lot to celebrate there. And we were traveling. You were home. You had the kids home.
Yes, at least some of them.
Okay.
I don't think we ever have them home all together now, but yeah, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, that would be hard. Mm-hmm. We want to have our kids home for the holidays.
Yeah. So yeah, Tyler's opened a new Core Power, one of the yoga studios, and I don't know why it got slowed down a little bit. I'm not sure if the air quality, because
correct.
I don't think that did it. But he actually told me today that the air quality's, it rained there, so it's a lot better, at least in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. So, but he'll open, I think, the week after Christmas.
Okay.
Finally, so he couldn't come.
Yeah, trying to get everything ready.
Yeah. So, and how was New York?
It was amazing. It was cold, which was great. And it's funny because here in Dallas, it's like, 70 degrees today. And I also really appreciate our winter, but it's funny when you try to take Texas teenagers up to New York and they think they can plan for the cold, but they go out with like one hoodie on. And it's like, I told them before he left, no complaining if you're freezing.
Right.
And so my younger son just was like biting his lip the whole time. He never complained once, but he was miserable.
I bet. I told you before that we would take about 50 kids for the Fine Arts Department to New York, 40 to 50. And I was a chaperone. And it's hilarious getting them on and off the subway. We would yell, the name of the school, off. We'd say, PCA, off. And everybody would get off the bus. And but it's the same thing. The girls would come down in like really fancy shoes, and it'd be like, this was in the spring, so like mini mesters, what they called it. But around springtime, it would snow a couple times,
right?
Early spring, and those UGG shoes, they would wear those, and then they'd be this, deep and like, I don't know, 6 inches deep in snow or whatever, sledging around in sludge all over New York, and I'm like, really? So, but someone would wear like these high heel sandals, at night to go to the plays.
Right.
And I was just like, oh man, you're going to be hating life, because we walked all day.
Oh, yeah. New York is all about being comfortable and taking practical shoes. So.
Yes. I see why they wear black a lot, or at least they used to.
Oh,
it's
no,
easy.
They do. Yeah. It was really hard to find people in a crowd because like everybody's jacket is a neutral shade, nobody's walking around in hot pink or anything. So.
Right. Well, I'm glad you had fun.
Yeah, thanks.
Did you guys go to the parade or?
No, we were leaving that day on Thursday and it was really cold. So, and luckily we were not staying in that part of town.
Yeah.
So we weren't, we just tried to avoid the traffic of all that.
Right. I didn't think that was your plan, but I just, I've never done it, and I don't really think I'd want to be honest.
Yeah. No, well, I will say New York at Christmas time is pretty amazing. I have not done the parade, but anything up there is really cool. Yeah,
right.
It is an experience,
yes,
I'm sure.
For sure. So. Oh, yeah. I'm sure it's wonderful. So today we decided to talk about kind of what we were talking about just a second ago. Mm-hmm. Are the kids home and for the holidays, and what the holidays look like with family, friends, and we added foes, and knowing how to navigate, the way you put it was to navigate the holidays with the people in our lives.
Oh, absolutely. And because this is something we all go through. There's, I was reading, someone wrote, every family has drama. And I thought, not always. Not always. Some families, there isn't drama. And it might not be that you have to hang around someone who's dramatic or causes that tension. But for a lot of people, or for a lot of us at different times in our life, we will have to navigate some of that. And so that's kind of where we came from today when we were looking into this.
Right. Yeah, I would think not everybody has drama, but I think if you dig deep enough, it's most families, there's somebody there that, I don't know, might be a little bit difficult to deal with at the holidays. Mm-hmm. But the nuclear family, people's nuclear family, I don't think everybody has drama. I agree with you that they won't all have it. But I think the holidays can bring out a lot of stress in people, though. It seems like it starts Halloween. Like right after Halloween. it seems like it kind of begins the whole
build up
this holiday season. And there's so many things that we put pressure on ourselves to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then, okay, how am I going to get the whole family together? How am I going to get the kids home? If there's a divorce situation, you know, it's really hard. Then my middle son was talking about, you know, he just got married in May. And so how do they, you know, Mom, I'm sorry if I don't see you at that time, but I've got this person to see and this person to see and this person. I was like, I totally understand. This is supposed to be a time of joy. One of the things I told him is I said, you know, I'd almost rather get together 45 minutes every other week and see you, or just for a quick lunch. He works down in the Highland Park area, and just see you, then we have to say that this is the day we have to get together.
Yeah.
And I've always been a little weird about holidays that way.
Oh, well, that's good, because that to me shows your flexibility. And if you want to be someone that people want to spend the holiday with, part of that is being flexible and being likable. And it was interesting, when my stepson first got married, I thought I was flexible, and then I realized, oh, I'm a little more rigid about this. I've gotten used to how we do the holiday. And I thought I would be okay with making a change, and I'm not. But I've realized at this point, especially now that we have a grandbaby and stuff, that you know, it really isn't going to be about the day, and it's not going to be about it's about the time we have together, you know. And you know, even with what we did on Halloween, when we talked about Salmaine, is that these dates aren't you know, necessarily specific dates. They're just a set date to tie in with other when they were merging other religions together. So, and that helps to put it into a broader perspective as well.
I think so too. I think it's important for us to realize that we don't have to put so much pressure on ourselves to go, you know, you have to do this on this certain day. You have to get even not just family and friends, but getting Christmas cards out. Just all the stuff that people, which I don't do now, but I used to. And the big thing is, you know, if you don't send out Christmas cards, then you're going to get taken off somebody's list. A friend of mine, she always sends out Christmas cards because she refuses to be taken off everybody's list. And it's a big buildup to sending out these Christmas cards and making sure the whole family gets together to take the picture. And that's just a whole nother level of putting pressure on yourself. And I just, at one point, when my kids were little, just gave myself the freedom to know that I was just a little unorthodox in the way I did some things. And, you know, we would go out of town a lot on Christmas Day because the holidays are difficult for me. It's a difficult time of year for me. And so, of course, it wasn't all about me. I'd always tried to make it for the kids, but things were just a little different in our family. It wasn't always perfect. This is how we do it every single year. I do think traditions are important within families, and I'm not sure I was real good at setting those. But, you know, it can be difficult to navigate.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting what you say about Christmas cards, because I find that they're less of a thing now, that people have become more green, and the online Christmas card isn't quite the same, but you do get the picture of the kids. But now we also follow everybody on Instagram and Facebook, and so it's not as necessary to have that Christmas card. When my kids were little, we sent them out, and they were always fun. And I mean, I even remember years that we'd have like just a random friend on our Christmas card with us, you know, like
how funny. Yeah, I love that.
We were
photo bombing friend.
Yeah, no, we weren't super traditional. It was always funny. Yeah, now you know, as my kids got older, and I do find people send less Christmas cards, and I'm kind of relieved because, you know, we have so much going through the mail with Amazon. Like, do we need to do that? And we have so many other pressures. So let's talk about how we, you know, kind of navigate some of these things. So,
okay. Well, I think first of all, for me, as I was thinking about it, I was just thinking, you know, first of all, do we have to put the pressure on ourselves? And I've already said, for me, I don't feel like you have to. I care how I make other people feel. Okay, I do. I want to honor people with my time and things like that. But there are times when I just believe it's just time to, your family might not be your biological family or your nuclear family, the family that raised you even, might not be, and then your sisters and siblings may not be the people that you choose to spend Christmas with. It may be your tribe, your emotional family, and I think that's okay.
Yeah.
For a lot of people. Especially because a lot of people have lost people over the years. Mm-hmm. And so it's nice to know that you have maybe a different view of what family is. I think it gets thrown around a lot, like, oh, we're family. You know, people who work together, we're family. You know, this is a big family up here at, you know, wherever you work. And that may not be true. That may be a phrase that's misused. But I think just, again, the pressure that we put on ourselves to do things the way it's supposed to be done, I've just let that go to a big extent.
Well, and I think that's one of the blessings of growing older as well, because, you know, the pressure that we had when our kids were little was also a much bigger deal. I just remember a side tip of a friend of mine. She said, oh, we don't wrap Santa presents. And I was like, you don't? And I was like, ooh, that's kind of a blessing. Mm-hmm. One less thing to worry about. And you have to understand, like, I'm a serious wrapper. Like, I get all into it. I use real ribbons. And
nice.
But I grew up with the idea that we needed to be conscientious. And so we always saved ribbons. So everybody kind of teases me because I pull out the ribbons and I iron them every year.
That's good, though.
I know it seems crazy, but
no, it doesn't actually.
If you're using real satin and double-sided satin, it gets expensive, and so, and why keep buying all that? So I have the bucket of Christmas ribbon, but yeah, you know, it is an interesting thing because you will find the dynamics of your holidays change as people pass on, or kids are born and people move to other states. So some people come in and you'll find they're alternating every other year as marriages happen and things. And so sometimes that can actually make things a little easier, as far as who gets more attention. And, you know, a big one for people is also things to discuss over the holidays, you know, and how to deal with some of those topics, you know, and generally we just kind of avoid them. I mean, no one in my family looks to make something uncomfortable to talk about, either certainly not in my immediate family, but also in the family I grew up in. But, you know, we generally avoided any subject that could be detrimental at dinner conversation, especially when alcohol was flowing and things like that.
I was going to say that does make a difference when the alcohol is flowing, because I believe that this is accurate. Over Thanksgiving, I think that's one of the busiest days in emergency rooms, because the alcohol and the people getting together. And actually, I was told that when one of my boys on Thanksgiving Day, I had to take them to the emergency room. They were okay, but it was just, nothing was open. And it was just a screaming ear infection type thing, you know.
Ouch.
And I believe that, and I got there and it was like so crowded. I was like, what gives? You know, I thought everybody'd be watching TV and
knife cuts
and eating. And seriously, I mean, a lot of domestic issues go on during the holidays, because a lot of people don't avoid those subjects that maybe are the taboo subjects, and then they drink too much and things happen.
Wow. Well, and I was saying knife cuts because of cutting the turkey.
Yeah, I was thinking knife cuts.
She's thinking like family. Yeah, real
it
issues.
It happens, yes.
Wow.
And shootings, yeah. And I can't, you know, I didn't look up that statistic. I just know that they told me that at that ER. And that was East Texas, so I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, they
that
really
can be
get
a big
into
trigger point.
And I do think that for me, you know, there's nothing wrong with talking about controversial subjects and debating them. But what you said is, you know, healthy debate, I think, is actually, well, healthy. But I don't think at the dinner table over the holidays is probably the time to do it. So,
right. Especially if you know there's some level of fragility and that things are kind of just kind of floating on the surface, you know, and maybe they need to stay on the surface.
Right.
One of the things I thought about that I always think is really important is when you're dealing with a family member that you see is struggling, there is this desire to help them, to fix the situation. And the holidays are not the time to do that. I have I put my foot in my mouth on several occasions, wanting to help someone. And I really should have just kept it shut because my help wasn't wanted. If she wanted my thoughts or opinions, she would have asked me, And as soon as I said it and the person's face just cringes or is like, has the WTF, you just hurt my feelings look, you're like, oh no, why did I go there? Right. And, and I'm kind of a force. That is my nature.
Yeah. Well, you're honest. And I think that for both of us, we can pick up on it immediately when someone is feeling the way they are feeling about what we said or just how they're feeling. I mean, I can walk into my store and some of the people who lease there or people who are working there, I can literally, I'll be like, okay, what's wrong? And what's going on? That's where that whole empath thing comes in. But I think intuitives have that a lot to where we pick up on things and we do kind of want to either fix it or make it better or ask or give our opinions sometimes because we can feel it and we know something's going on.
Right.
Even if we didn't know about it before, we can feel it and we know.
Well, and especially with a family member, and like if you just did it my way, you'd be better.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, this is not the time or place. So let that one pass.
But I think that the definition of, Megan, you saw my notes. I looked at the definition just because I think most of us know what a family is. It's interesting looking at friends, though, because, and we always hear this, okay, acquaintances. But I think the term friend gets thrown around quite a bit when maybe that's somebody that's an acquaintance. And so we think, okay, what about spending time with our friends? And when our time is pretty valuable, most of the people I hang out with, we all just kind of have an understanding that during the holidays especially, you may not talk as much or something, you're not going to be running around together as much because it's time to spend time, do things for the family. Yep. And so I try to be, somewhat cognizant of that. But at the same time, sometimes those are the people that I want to talk to the most, and I miss those people. So it's kind of, you determine who your true friends, which I think is not an easy thing to always determine. If they are your true friends, but you want to talk to those people sometimes during times when you are down.
Right.
And the holidays, again, it might not be the best time to do it. So a lot of times, like I said, my friends and I will have an understanding, won't talk for a while, but then when you talk, it's like
you pick up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think family does that too. Have you noticed like certain family members that you get together with, maybe that cousin that you don't ever see, and then you see them at the holidays and you're like, oh, wow, I'm really glad that I came to this event.
Right.
Or even family reunions. I'm really glad that I came. I may not ever talk to them again, but there's some kindred spirit that you can feel in that bloodline.
Yeah. Well, and I don't see my family a whole lot, my extended family, except for on Christmas. And so there is a coming together and we literally just pick up where we left off. There's no like, oh, God, you didn't spend any time with me this year. It's just, it is what it is. We're living busy lives. We live very different lives, and that's all okay. So that's always been a nice thing to me, that I don't feel pressure to have to connect all the time.
How do you find that you deal with holidays with people that you've lost? And because I know you've had some loss of loved ones in your life, and how, and some of those were when you were really young, right, that you've shared on the air. But how do you deal with that? And I know, because that's a thing I think that causes a lot of depression for a lot of people, is how they deal with the loss of that loved one.
Well, it was interesting because I was by no means a favorite child in the house, but I took on the role of hosting holidays immediately after my godmother's passing. And actually it made me feel really centered and very much a part of the family and keeping her spirit alive. Because, everybody got to come over and I felt like, oh, I have a part in this. And I did that for several years. And then I felt, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. This is a lot of work. And I don't know that I need to, but there was also some changes in dynamics, people moving, other people passing. So there was just some shifts, and it allowed me to kind of pass that role on. And that was also good. For me to do it for a few years was a good fit, and then to kind of let go after that. Christmas for us was always a very massive ordeal of gift giving. And so that was a love language that I was very familiar with, not only receiving, but I learned to give in that way. And that's actually been one of the hardest things for me to let go of, as the family has progressively grown, and there was always like this pressure to give lots of presents to everyone. And I mean, I literally would spend 3 or 4 months just recouping the financial loss from Christmas. And when you're, an independent kid living on your own, that's really hard. So now it's kind of nice to, really defocus from that. And even my stepsons are like, hey, we'll buy whatever we want for ourselves. You don't need to give us anything. And having that kind of flexibility and knowing that, if the best gift I can give them is work in their landscape, that kind of thing, can be really significant. But
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the loss aspect is always, it's going to be a different challenge for everyone. There was some relief for me to let go of some of that pressure of trying to fit in a way where I felt like I was a square and a square peg trying to fit in a round hole. So, yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I've had loss, but fortunately so far not as much probably of my immediate. My grandmothers and grandfathers and things like that, and some friends actually. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the biggest things when I struggle with the holidays for me, or seasonal depression, or whatever that's called, I think one of the most important things is service to others. I really like, and I know that a lot of people, that's the only time they volunteer. The food banks are flooded with volunteers at Christmas, and soup lines and things like that. And we really should, maybe not should, but I would like to do it more throughout the whole year. But some of the most memorable times I've had is when big groups that were like family or parts of my family got together and went and worked at like the North Texas Food Bank on a certain day during the holidays. Or one year we went and built a house for a family in Tijuana. And so it was a group of, I don't know how many of us. In fact, someone invited us to do that this year.
Cool.
Yeah, we were supposed to let them know about Thanksgiving. And so with the things going on in Tijuana, I'm not sure if that's even still on, but we built a house for a family in 3 days.
Wow.
A little house, and it's through this organization that, they've got it down to a science exactly how to do it. Mm-hmm. And of course, I'm like, here, let me look like I'm busy. Let me look like I'm sawing something. Or, I think I stayed and played with the kids the whole time.
But that's needed.
Mm-hmm. So we did some stuff. It was kind of fun to watch some of my friends be over there with the power saw and circular saws. And I'm like, how'd you learn that? They were really cool. And I'm just like, okay, when did we get the decorations?
Yeah.
Which we did.
That's awesome.
And we had toys that we gave out to all the kids and stuff. So I just love the service aspect too, because it gets you outside of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the holidays are a great time to do that. And they do need volunteers. Mm-hmm. You can get a group together and call places and go stuff bags and go to the Salvation Army and do things. I even heard they're needing volunteers for ringing those bells.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. I'm not brave enough to do that. I would probably yell at somebody, what do you mean you're not going to put any money in here? I'd probably
That's
chase
awesome.
them down. They wouldn't let me volunteer probably for that.
I love that you include that in your holiday regime. I actually kind of go the opposite direction, and I realized I was commenting via text that I was pretty stressed out yesterday, and then it hit me. I'm like, you know what? I am like this every single year, from Thanksgiving till about December 15th, and then I'm okay. And a lot of that for me is the decorating. I am a kind of a decorating nut, I guess. So, it's the outdoor lights, which last year I had like 10,000 lights up outside. So
beautiful.
It was. I kept blowing the fuses. So I don't think I'll do as many this year. Right. But getting everything decorated, and we do host my husband's office Christmas party. So there's, I do need to have it decorated.
There's a little bit of pressure to do that.
Right.
I mean, a little bit. But you enjoy it. It sounds like the decorating.
But I tend to do my volunteering around other times of the years. Now, I might do angel trees and buy some things when I'm out shopping. But a lot of times, this is the part where I step away a little more and try to not do as much service time because I am stretched so thin. And, I really took the time both yesterday and today to realize, what are my priorities in my life? How am I going to be happy? Why am I feeling overwhelmed? What really isn't important here? And so that was something I felt was going to make a difference in how I manage this holiday season.
Right.
So
yeah, I think I like that perspective, because I think the reason I usually try to come up with something to do during the holidays is because it does take that pressure off of me, because I just don't decorate much at all. And it was always something that I almost felt very guilty about. Now, when we had the big, huge house, my other marriage, I think we had 3 or 4 trees, but the decorators came in.
Right.
And then the one family tree we would decorate. So I am pretty unorthodox, and I put a lot of guilt on myself because of that. But I'm growing out of it.
Right.
Maybe about the time I die, I'll be thrown out of it.
I would have been one of the people that she hired to decorate the tree. So
they had themes and everything.
Yeah.
It's like one of them was the 12 days of Christmas. And I walked in the room one day and I was like, and it's a huge tree. And I was like, what is this in my house? I have no idea. This really has no meaning to me, because it should be special. And it was pretty, but it was like, where do we store this? I mean, it's just all this stuff, So I was able to just, let go of that pretty easily.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know what happened to all that stuff.
Well, I don't know.
idea.
The event company I worked with, we stored it. That was something that was taken care of. But I started collecting ornaments when I was 18. And so I would buy a couple on the after Christmas sale. And I have so many now. And I only do one tree. It's one big tree. Mm-hmm. And I'm a little concerned that the tree I bought this year is not going to be big enough to hold them all. The weight of the tree, though, the whole thing is weighted down by the time Christmas rolls around. That tree is so dead and worn out.
But all those ornaments mean something to you, though, because
everyone has a story.
Yeah. So that's what's cool about it. Not just some decorated tree that you're going, there's just okay, they can tell me the theme and tell me the meaning, but that it's always that for us it was almost a little Charlie Brown tree,
right?
At least in my house, that had all the kids, the things they'd made, and my mom was actually very good at giving me ornaments.
Oh, nice.
And we've saved all those. They're somewhere. Well, one thing that we were going to talk about too is we were talking about family, friends, or friends, families, and foes. And foe being, that's the one interesting thing that I did look the definition of, because I just figured, okay, that's just somebody who, you just kind of don't get along with, right? Or maybe, no, stronger than that. You don't like them, okay? But it was pretty strong, the definition. It said a person, and this is just from the dictionary.com, A person who feels enmity, hatred, or malice towards another. An enemy, a bitter foe would be something that you would say in a sentence, a bitter foe. And I thought, well, that's a big difference between a friend and a foe. I mean, there's a big gap in between there when you're talking foe and friend. And that's when I started looking up, okay, the rest are, acquaintances. Or you're figuring out where do they, and you have to label everything, but it's kind of interesting, because I don't know how many people I just hate, that are bitter, have those strong emotions toward malice towards another. I mean, mal means evil. I mean, or bad. Bad. So that's a pretty strong word. And where it kind of took me is a little off subject, but it kind of took me to really thinking about who is in my life and prioritizing that. Who is in my life that I know really cares about me and I really care about them. Or maybe I really care about them and they need it, and they're there for me a lot, or I'm there for them. But true friends versus maybe some people that I have in my life, and that brought up then the whole concept of cutting cords. I think you can actually cut cords with people that are, situations. We all have cords, but some of them are good cords, but we all have energetic cords. And so this whole cutting cords, which by that, you're cutting and severing that energy. There's certain ways to do that. But I think that it gets thrown a lot around. I notice it on social media a lot. And it's so distressing to see it from people. Oh, it's, the memes that say, if you don't like them, just cut that person out of your life. There's just a lot of those type of memes. Is that the word, memes?
I think
whatever
so.
Those things are called. Is that what that's called, Matt?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and so there's so many of them that surprise me that come from people who, are one second they're talking about all love and all these things, and the next second they're going, now, cut that person out of your life. You got to set better boundaries. And I think that there's a balance with that. People go a little bit far with just saying, just cut everybody out of your life.
Right.
So it just kind of led me down that path of really thinking about that and who you have in your life. Like you said, you prioritize what you do and your time. You also, I think, are very good at prioritizing the people in your life and knowing where they fit.
Right.
And how much time, do I need to give to this relationship?
Well, and one thing you can do if you are at a holiday event and somebody is really getting under your skin is step into the bathroom and do some breathing exercises, or just take a moment of quiet. The bathroom tends to be a big escape place for people in general. And it's not just because they're going to go in there and read a book. A lot of times it is to center oneself, especially when you're with people that you don't necessarily feel really comfortable with for whatever reason. You can also go out and take a walk, especially if the sun is shining and, you're going to be all day with the family. Just say, hey, I'm going to step out for a few minutes and get some fresh air. People get that. It doesn't mean you don't have to smoke a cigarette to go outside and take a break.
Right. That's true.
So just kind of a helpful way to look at things. Another thought, too, is you can approach some of these issues ahead of time. Maybe talk to the person one-on-one so you're not in a group situation. There's also the idea of kind of going over in your head how ugly the situation could go. And not that I'm not saying to do this that you're trying to manifest it. It's just in the way of being prepared for what might throw me off balance and how would I handle this going into this. For me, it was always either staying invisible or being really, really helpful, but definitely avoiding conflict and I needed to smooth things over. How was the best way to handle that? Well, for me, it's being put to work, doing work in the kitchen, whatever needed to happen.
Right. So. You're a good hostess, period.
Well, really, and I think that came from, learning to function and survive Christmas and other holidays.
Right. Yeah. My mom's always in the kitchen. I mean, just constantly. You can barely get her to sit down. That's her thing. for me, I go the opposite way. I run from the kitchen. So I'm just not, I don't feel that good in the kitchen, but I was raised very much to be a hostess and have the manners of a hostess. But it's sometimes funny. Well, for one thing, I would get an Emily Post, or it used to be Gloria Vanderbilt too, believe it or not. Emily Post or Gloria Vanderbilt manners book every year.
Oh, that's awesome.
At Christmas. Well, it clearly meant that I needed it. But
well, that's why they would give it to, but I think of you as having good manners.
Well, my mom is above and beyond. I mean, she's probably one of the most lovely, genuinely, but she's just like another friend of mine. They would get a lot of headaches too during the holidays. And I think because they're just so busy taking care of everyone else and really going over the top with the hostessing.
Right.
And so there's a balance in that too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wouldn't say my manners are the best. I'm like, oh, help yourself. Like, literally, wine glasses are up there, beer's in the fridge down the hall.
That's comfortable, though. I don't think that's bad manners.
Oh, but I'll, like, forget to offer drinks and stuff. There's things that I'm not good at. Preparing the food, I'm generally okay.
And it's like in a family gathering or any kind of gathering, when people just sort of get quiet or they sort of wander away from the table, like you said, or wander away from the conversation in a certain spot, you can kind of gauge for those of you who might be a little more prone to controversial subjects. Because I think right now that's a very important thing to talk about. I think there's a lot of division between people in what they believe is going on in the world right now, and in the United States in particular. There's no need to try to hide from it. It's a fact. I mean, there's division.
Absolutely.
And so that's something that, really you can choose to, and it's interesting because I will still have friends even if they completely disagree with me. I can still have them as a very good friend. I find that makes life really interesting. I mean, our blueprint is not the same, that we came in with, right? So, but I think that holidays, and particularly this year, because of a lot of people not agreeing on things, it might be smart to take your advice and, just leave that at the house. Don't take that with you to the party or to the dinner, because it will probably cause an argument this year.
Yeah.
With a lot of families, right?
Yep.
So that's, for me, pretty good advice, because going to law school and then actually Dallas Theological Seminary, where they made you debate a lot. I do debate a little. I like controversial
You're good at
subjects.
that, yeah.
But I don't have to win. I like to hear both sides.
Right.
All right. So let's go to
my plant.
I never know if to say herb or plant or tree or.
Well, and that's a good point. So today it is a tree. So our support for the holiday season, which I should have probably picked something evergreen, but I picked the chase tree, which here in Texas, as Master Gardener, we just refer to as a vitex. And fantastic tree, but ugly in winter, though. It does lose its leaves. It's deciduous. But I was drawn to the chase tree because it's full of phytochemicals. And one of the things it does, it has progesterone and testosterone available in it. And so it has a calming effect on people. It's good for PMS. It's good for menopause. And it's good if you're creating breast milk and any kind of cramps, but it regulates and normalizes your hormone levels. And so that's why I picked it for holiday season. So we use the berries and the leaves, and you can find that in like a capsule form. It blooms in the summer, in the heat of summer, and it'll kind of bloom all summer long. And it's got big blue spires or kind of spiky things that bloom. And butterflies love it. It's gorgeous. It comes in like a purpley blue and a white color. But it's scented as well. And so the leaves, it smells really good, especially if you're trimming on it. And it'll grow as like a ginormous bush, but you can shape it into a tree. So it can get a lot of suckers on the bottom. So it's really important to get that trunk base started. But it's also a very fast growing tree. And so, it gets underutilized in the landscape a lot. You'll see it sometimes in commercial areas. but it's really great in the home area because, especially if it's a new neighborhood, this sucker grows really fast. And a lot of times they'll pop a live oak or a red oak, something in your yard that's going to take eons to grow. And it's kind of nice to have some of both, so that as this dies out in 25, 30 years, then your oaks are really thriving at that point. And so it's a good tree for that. Besides, you get these beautiful colors. It's a full sun lover. It's very drought tolerant. So all around good tree.
How do you spell that? Is it chaste? Is that what you said?
Yes, chaste, a chaste, a chaste tree.
Oh, interesting.
Or the Latin is vitex, and I've always just called it vitex.
I think that is at the Addison Convention Center. I'm looking at it in the reflection over there. It's beautiful, actually. It's like, oh, wow, they've got it. No, that's the reflection. But there were a lot of monarch butterflies. It looked just like your picture, and then there were all these butterflies just all over it.
Well, there's one in my garden, so if you ever come for a reading with me, you'll see it. And there's one outside of Soultopia in Oak Cliff.
I've never seen
It's right. It's
you're
the
right.
one right in front.
Yeah.
But it's the leaves are gone right now, so it's looking a little scrappy, and it'll get a lot bigger than it is right now. But yeah. So yay!
All right. So
what did you bring?
So I brought 3 crystals. The first is blue agate, and it's interesting. You can tell by, if you see this, if you're watching, blue agate. It's an agate that's been dyed. Agates are very porous, and so that's why you will get a lot of those bookmarks that you see that are like blue, not bookmarks, bookends that are blue or purple.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of people will be like, ew, it's dyed. But this picture is not great to see how blue they can be, though. I had one girl come in and buy she bought a bunch, like pounds of it, and she put it in a huge bowl, she said, in her living room.
Oh, nice.
So that one I did for friends, and she just said it cheered up the room, and it was a whole lot of it. But you can tell it is a little dyed, but it's a good one. And then I did, for the family, I did carnelian. And the reason I did this one is because orange is good for vitality and positivity and hope. And I mean, it's associated with your sacral chakra, which is creativity and sex, but and passion and pleasure. But it's also associated with just, kind of making people happier.
Nice.
All right. And so, and another one that would be good for that I had gone over before, I believe, on the show was tiger iron. And tiger iron has tiger's eye, jasper, and hematite in it. So it's a very harmonizing stone. So it's great for harmonizing. And fluorite also is great for teamwork. So those would be good ones for family. And then for faux, I did bloodstone. Bloodstone's actually a very interesting crystal. It's like a green crystal that has red flecks on it. And so the red flecks, it's rumored, or it's not rumored, that's not the right word. It's the lore of it is that that was the blood of Christ. And so then it would turn these stones into looking like bloodstone, the green with the red flecks on it. But bloodstone is also, the lore is that it would help you keep away or keep at bay your enemies. Nice. And your foes. And if you had somebody that just didn't wish the best for you, that bloodstone was very protective in that way.
Oh, that's good. So you can get a bloodstone at Soultopia, and if you are going to a very difficult holiday dinner, you can just put some in your pocket.
Mm-hmm. You can. And the carnelian, by the way, next time you go to New York, when it's cold, put a couple of those in your pocket. You know how you put the little snow, a lot of people put the ski heat things if it's really cold. Well, carnelian is great to warm up your hands during the cold.
Yeah.
Yes. So you can I get my sweaters and coats out this time of year, and I'll start looking go in the pockets, like, oh, there's the carnelian I've been looking for.
That's
It's
hilarious.
like
yeah.
It's tucked down in all of them. One other thing I was going to say is that a sphere, so the round shape, is also very much about unity. So that's a very good crystal to have out, or even maybe decorate your table with the sphere, which would be a round ball, whatever quartz or crystal you want to use. And then to cut cords, which we mentioned earlier, a black obsidian arrowhead is good for that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, we are a little over on time, so we probably ought to wrap it up for today.
Can we just mention, I'm going to mention these cards that we had out just since they're sitting here on the table. Megan and I know someone named Ciro Marchetti. He was on our show. If you didn't watch that, it was a couple weeks ago.
2 weeks
Two
ago.
shows ago. And he made a new deck called the Marchetti Tarot deck. And if you order it online, and I'm not sure if you can still do this, but he will give you your name with the order of the deck. It's actually after his, it's Ciro Marchetti, and it's called the Marchetti Tarot deck. And then he also put my name on this one, and then my zodiac symbol. And Meg got one too. A lot of people did. But the deck itself is also available on his website.
And that was episode 26. I was just checking.
And that was it was very interesting. He's funny.
Yeah, and actually his deck, or his decks, I've had people pick them nonstop since he came to visit.
Yeah.
It's really brought a lot of energy of his into my work world, which is very cool.
Yeah,
So.
I love all his decks, and this one actually I went through it today, and it's beautiful. It came in the mail today, and it was like Christmas at my
it's
house.
personalized, which
so
is
it's
very
really
cool.
nice. Yeah, and it has a really nice, just to show y'all, because I'm all picky about the.
She likes a good solid box.
Yeah, so when it comes in, it's magnet, and it comes in this box if you're going to keep your box with it. It's just absolutely beautiful. So since we didn't get to use them, at least we gave a shout out for them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right. Definitely a deck to look into. So, well, you guys have been listening to Third Eye Thinkers today, and with your hosts, Michelle Welch and Megan Benanti. If you enjoyed this show, please give us a 5-star review, and don't forget to subscribe to us at Third Eye Thinkers on any of the podcast networks and on YouTube. So we're produced by Real News Communication Network, and we want to give a special thanks to our producer, Matt Stoker, and our social media assistant, Cassie Clayton. Thanks so much, and keep Third Eye thinking.
Thank you.